Hello everyone, Bear here, and welcome to our look at Warhammer Vermintide 2. Now this is a little bit of an old game, though it has had some recent updates. We'll be taking a look at just what is, as well as some of the new features introduced to Vermintide 2 in 2021. So starting as always with our settings, we have plenty of options regarding our controls and our gameplay, with even things such as priority input being available for customization. Now something to note, if we go all the way to the bottom, you have a bot hero priority. This means that when you're playing by yourself, you'll be able to organize which bots are brought in, as well as when there's a spare space, which will be the first hero they look at to introduce if they're not already in the party. As well as some considerations for its Twitch integration, where viewers will be able to directly affect the campaign as it's played out, spawning new enemies, bestowing blessings upon the players, as well as affecting whether or not the weekly events are included. It's a great place to start if you're looking to stream this game, as well as something to consider if you're watching someone else play it. Moving on though, we have our video options, pretty standard here with various changes to gamma, which I would recommend bringing up, as depending on your lighting and eyesight, the game can be quite dark at times. You also have plenty of control of the graphical settings, with all different aspects from texture to lighting being separately controlled, meaning computers from a broad range of systems will be able to use this game. And once more, given I have a GTX 1080, you can see I'm able to play this on extreme, all with a reasonable frame rate. Now since this is a party-based builder, moving on to our audio, you do have plenty of options in regards to how you communicate with other players. And personally, I've been doing this via Discord, so I've actually turned a lot of this off, though there are options there for even push talk should you want to then talk to the rest of the team when you're not already communicating via a different software. Now I should note now you have options for key bindings, however you can also play this game via a controller. Now personally, I've been playing this with keyboard and mouse and haven't really gone into the controller setup to see if it's any good, mostly as any kind of melee-based first-person game I just find works a little bit better with your mouse as a controller, allowing you to be a little more accurate with your strikes. Now as I said, this is a team-based game, so of course there are networking options, though most of this is going to be limited to your actual network connection, as well as Tobii eye tracking, which if we take a look into is essentially an esports training device, so I'd imagine is not going to make too much of a difference for most standard gamers. And when you start off, you'll have the option of multiple heroes at your disposal. You'll begin with a mercenary, a ranger veteran, the Waze Stalker, witch hunter, and battle wizard. As you progress and level up your character, you'll then unlock new variations and specific job classes for them. You can see here on the witch hunter, we have the zealot and the bounty hunter, each of which comes with their own special abilities as well as a preferred weapon. Taking a look at our Waze Stalker then, we can unlock a Handmaiden, a Shade. If we come over to the Sister of Fawn, we'll see DLC not owned, meaning yes, some of these are locked out, but we can see clearly 2 remaining for the Witch Hunter and our Sorcerer. I'm afraid you'll have to wait until they are released, as the Sister of Fawn was only released recently. Though should you wish, you can get the Grail Knight, Outcast, Engineer, and Sister of Fawn as some additional characters. Confirming our Witch Hunter Captain, we can then check our remaining options. Obviously, you can quit, engage in credits. You can also bring up party options, allowing you to talk to the rest of your team if you do not have a microphone. However, we're going to go ahead and play the prologue. Now, the prologue for this game is a playable tutorial, allowing you to experience firsthand what the game has to offer, as well as introducing the many enemies you'll be facing up against throughout the campaigns. Now skip forward a tick if you don't want spoilers, but in our prologue we also get to see the main characters we'll be facing up against and the final stage of our battle. Starting up, we have the fairly standard controls, WASD, space to jump, and left click to attack. Right click is your defense or your parry ability. This is useful when the enemy is attacking you, allowing you a chance to counter them. You can also hold left to charge up your attack and get a stronger one, though I should note each character and each weapon has a different style to their attacks. So it's a good idea to have a little play around with the different characters and check out different weapons as you find them, so as to get a better idea of what works best for you. Now as you're fighting the enemy, you'll also notice you can decapitate them and sever limbs. Being strategic with your hits is quite important, as well as timing your different moves to get the most out of each of your combos. You also have a dodge ability, though depending on your character, the movement is quite limited, so it actually can be pretty hard to pull off. It will, however, give you a nice little boost and bonus, and often links into various perks, so learning how to block and counter, as well as how to dodge, is very useful for survival in this game. And it's always nice to stop around and watch a singing dwarf. Now as you're playing, every now and then you'll see little icons pop up on your map. These indicate places to go or allies nearby. Finally, in terms of your melee, you also have a special ability. Keep an eye on the purple bar that builds up just above your health, pressing X to set it off. Now I have messed around with some of the keyboard bindings before, and that might well be different for you, so making sure you check through your controls whenever you're playing. Moving on to ranged combat, depending on your weapon, you'll be able to hold right click and zoom in on your target for a better shot, or simply left click to do so much faster. And of course, you'll be able to use barrels, the single greatest weapon in the entire game bar none. Now armored enemies will cause some serious trouble, with certain weapons really struggling to go against them. As can be seen with the sheer amount of arrows fired at this character, I believe only one of them actually was successful, with the icon turning orange to prove so. Now since this is a team-based game, as you're playing, you will need to keep your other teammates alive, working together to defeat your foes. That means reviving them, healing them, and paying attention to their positions when you set off such wonderful items as barrels. Now, a good thing to note is when you've been revived, you will have a grey bar of health, which will slowly drop down and can lead you to being captured. When you've been captured, you will find yourself respawned at a certain point in the map and have to await for your teammates to come and rescue you. As you play, you'll have additional items to use. See here straight away some bombs. Now these will damage you and your allies, so be careful when using them, though they are incredibly effective against all enemies. You also have access to potions. Now potions come with a myriad of different uses. They allow you to increase your speed, regain your focus, or improve your strength. Or just simply run forward and set off a barrel. As for health potions, these are considered separate, with a third slot being reserved for any kind of healing item you may find. Typically this will be healing drafts, which are quick use, or first aid kits, which heal significantly more, though do take some time to administer. The prologue is definitely worth playing through, and not only to learn how the game works, but also as it provides all of the story and framework for the rest of the game to come. But having completed that, just what is Vermintide 2? Vermintide 2 is a first-person hack-and-slash horde game. Based along the same vein of Left 4 Dead, you, alongside your party of 3 members, be they bots or players, must go forth to complete various missions along predominantly linear paths. These missions all link together as part of a larger campaign, though unlike with Left 4 Dead, Vermintide 2 includes RPG mechanics. Now the gore factor of this game is pretty darn high, so if you don't enjoy the clotted remains of Papa Nurgle's folk, this game may not be for you. Loading up our Inquisitor, we begin in the main lobby, where various different things can be accessed throughout the game. For those returning or brand new to Vermintide 2, you will now be able to enter the Chaos Wastes, an interesting new addition that was recently brought in 2021. You'll also have options of various missions within the game, with Helmgart being the main campaign, the Curse of Drachenfels being introduced as a smaller but still interesting free DLC campaign, as well as some DLC ones added in, with the Shadows of Oberbogenhafen, Back to Überschrick, and the Winds of Magic all being downloadable should you wish. Though honestly, sticking with Helmsgart, you have plenty of missions to take care of, as well as will be needing plenty of time to slowly develop your character and gain access to the higher levels of difficulty. Now you'll notice here as we look through the difficulties, we have highest obtainable hero power. This power level will directly decide what sort of equipment you get, with higher power levels affording you far better equipment. Now seeing as a large part of the game is the looter aspects, it's understandable that you'll be wanting to attempt the hardest levels you can as you go. And when you do complete a mission, you'll be able to return to the spoils of war. And what's quite nice is you can directly compare the weaponry you get to your current equipment as and when you find it. But you can also gain equipment via Okri's challenges. Now these special challenges include weekly, daily, as well as specific ones for completing certain missions on certain difficulties, or even simply taking out a certain amount of enemies. Now while in-game, you can buy DLC and skins for real money, though you also have an in-game currency. Shillings can be spent to acquire new cosmetics, allowing you to change the looks of your characters. They don't really hold any other effect outside of this, so it's really only there if you want to engage in it, with Lohan's Emporium always being available to players as and when you wish. Now this lobby is free to explore, and there are some interesting things to be found as you travel around. And I should note as well that as new features are introduced, yet more and more of the rooms and spaces are being opened up to players. You can see here our trophy room, where the schools and weapons of fell foes now stand as testament to your prowess. Coming outside, we also have access to the Select Weathe and Anthra. However, these are locked off to the Winds of Magic DLC. If you haven't purchased the DLC, it does work as a bit of a tease, but it's still nice to see it there even if you don't have access to it, which does help make the lobby seem a little more alive, even if financially restricting. Now, if you're the head of the party, you'll be able to start off your own missions, selecting the specific campaign and map, as well as the difficulty you'll be embarking on. Now, for recording this, I've set it to a private match, meaning only friends can join, though in general you can open this up to allow others to join you, or even join another player's game in progress. After all, a plague shared is boredom spared. Now, I have said each of the characters play differently and you will have to learn how they work, and it's good to play around and find which ones work best for you. Personally, I love the Witch Hunter. I find their speed and weaponry to be far more useful than that of other characters. In particular, I'm looking at the Dwarf. Now, while playing this game, you will meet various different types of enemies, including poisoned winged globadiers and rat catchers. Now, winged globadiers will obviously throw their poisoned globes in an effort to poison, slow down, debuff, and damage any player that walks into them. Whereas rat catchers will aim to catch their enemies and drag them away from their allies in an effort to separate and immobilize them, allowing for the hordes to finish them off. Now, since the single greatest part of the entire game is barrels, and definitely not killing pigs, playing as the Witch Hunter really does afford you the best chance to play the game, as you'll be able to throw barrels and set them alight with a single strike of your rapier. And that is a gun rat. Now, rattling gunners are a particularly nasty enemy to come up against, alongside warp throwers and rat ogres. Now, throughout missions, you'll also find yourself coming across tomes and grimoires. Now, these take the place of your various potions and work as an annoyance, forcing the player to decide whether they want the addition of those potions or if they want some additional loot at the end of the mission. If you do find yourself coming across the tougher enemies, you'll be able to defeat them for loot dice, which will improve the quality of equipment you come across at the end of the mission. Now, being a horde game, often you'll find yourself completely outnumbered and surrounded by foes, waiting for things such as gates and lifts to arrive. This is kind of par and course for the game, and it can be annoying for some, so do bear in mind that this really is the bulk of gameplay you're going to come across. Now, alongside the more powerful foes, with some of the hordes we've seen so far, you'll also have to deal with various elite units, storm vermin, plague monks, maulers, chaos warriors, as well as the brand new savage and bestigors. And finally, there are of course some specialist units, with gutter runners, sack rats, blight stormers, life leeches, and standard bearers that will come into play during various parts of the game, with some of these being locked off in the terms of our Beastmen into the Chaos Wastes. Now, most of these foes, so long as you aren't completely swarmed, you will be able to deal with fairly easily. However, there are various monsters that will also take their toll on you, with rat ogres, storm fiends, bile trolls, as well as chaos spawns and minotaurs. There's plenty of variation in the different enemies you'll meet, and because the enemies are randomly generated for each playthrough, as well as potentially being orchestrated by your Twitch audience, there really is enough throughout the game to keep you interested and coming back for more. The game does a pretty good job of keeping you on your toes by ensuring the enemy has different kinds of armor and arms available to them, forcing you to use different methods when engaging with different foes. Now, to stop this slaying from getting too monotonous, you won't just have to contend with the horde. You'll also often have to deal with small puzzles throughout the game, such as finding out how to blow a hole in the wall, as well as some maps being labyrinthian in style. And of course, dealing with those bigger, beefier enemies when they arrive. Now, as you play, it is good to note that the AI is not great at picking up various tomes and grimoires, so you will tend to be better off going for these when you're playing with your friends, as you will actually be able to pick up all 4 of them for each map and gain some genuine bonuses from them. So really, if you're going for them, you want to do it when you have your teammate with you, so you can explore the maps and track these down. Following the completion of each mission, you will be awarded loot, depending on how well you did within the mission itself. Now, the key factors for this are going to be picking up various items within the game, such as your loot dice as well as various other collectibles, including but not limited to ravaged art and poisoned feast chalices. Now, many of these are restricted to specific maps, though it's definitely worthwhile keeping your eye out for them, as not only will some of them grant you additional experience, but they can also improve the equipment you're rewarded with, and some of them are even linked to various challenges found throughout the game. Quite nicely here we can see the different levels of rarity found within your equipment. Since this was following a mission played on Recruit, then the maximum power for any item will be 100, which is somewhat unfortunate seeing as we're quite over that level. However, we can see the standard white rarity offering us a veteran's badge with no special effects added to it. Moving over to green, we also have additional properties of 16% stamina recovery, whereas finally if we move over to orange, we can see not only do we have properties, we also have additional bonus effects, in this case from concoction. Drinking a potion granting the effect of all other potions, with a duration reduced by 50%, which is a pretty nice little balance, giving you slightly less time in which to use the effects of the potion while giving you multiple effects from it. Vermidia's seal proving pretty nice indeed. Going into our character panel, we can see all of the items we currently have available to us, with plenty of variety in all the different weapons afforded. Now, as I stated before, you will find yourself tending towards one specific weapon as you prefer the fighting style, so when you can see a large jump in damage, or if you feel a specific mission calls for a different playstyle, you can always keep your inventory open and available for change, allowing your character a few more options when it comes to combat. The items you'll be able to change are your melee weaponry, ranged weaponry, a necklace, a charm, and a trinket. All of these combine with their different power levels to give you your hero power. Hovering over this, we can see power from hero level 240 with power from equipment an additional 150, giving us a net worth of 390. The effect this has is increasing the amount of damage you deal, the number of enemies you will penetrate with each of your attacks, meaning you'll be able to hit multiple enemies with a single strike, as well as the level to which they are staggered when you hit them. Not to mention each of the pieces of equipment coming with their own bonuses, meaning that you'll have yourself a pretty well-rounded character, meaning that you'll be able to customize your character to a significant extent and buff them to a point that really fits your playstyle. To add to this, you also have talents. Now every 5 levels, starting from level 5, you will have access to a new talent. These can be changed at any point, so never feel like you're locked into them. However, you can only have one selected from each bracket at a time. Each of these work in different ways, and the current way I have mine set up is Disciplinarian, Death Knell, Assassin, and Wild Feather. Disciplinarian affords us the ability to heal 20% of nearby allies whenever your character's healed itself, Death Knell increasing the headshot damage, Assassin providing an additional 20% more damage to staggered foes, and finally Wild Feather granting us 5% increased critical hit chance. Now the combat ones are linked to the special Witch Hunt and Animosity abilities, as well as the character themselves having their own additional abilities attached, with Eternal Guard, no light attack block cost from frontal attacks, and critical hit headshot instantly slay man-sized enemies. And to round out the character customization, you also have access to cosmetics. Now since I pre-ordered the game, I was afforded some additional equipment, but seeing as these are purely cosmetic and have no actual in-game effect, it's really up to you whether or not you want to even look at these. Bear in mind that many of these cosmetics can be bought using in-game currency, so it's likely you'll end up picking up a few of them, if for no other reason than to free up some space in your coin purse. Now coming over to the final tab, we have crafting. To start with, you can salvage any of the equipment you gain, such as for example these patchwork pistols which have no real use. Then you can either break these down for new materials or improve them in the hopes of gaining better items from them. And as we can see here from our salvage items menu, we can right click the items to send them into our salvage selection before then breaking them down and gaining their raw crafting materials from them, so as to make our own in the future. Coming over to our craft item screens, we've gone ahead for a blacksmith's brace of pistols, requiring salvage weapon parts and scrap, and having no trouble crafting patchwork pistols. 148 power, not bad, though compared to our 151, I don't think we'll be changing them anytime soon. We can re-roll properties, which is an interesting system by which you use Jade Dust and Celestial Dust to change the properties of a weapon. 6.5% power versus Berserkers, we roll again, 8.5% power versus Armored. It doesn't change the base stats, but it is a good way to change those properties if there's something you're not going to use. We also have the use of Amber Dust to re-roll the traits of a weapon, though this is extremely costly, as you'll be needing to salvage items of rarity common or higher, of course with higher giving a far better chance of affording you that amber. It's worth doing when you're reaching endgame, but early on, chances are you're going to be able to use your equipment for quite a while. You can also upgrade items to the next rarity tier, though as you'll note, will require different types of material in order to upgrade between different levels. We were able to get all the way up to orange using basic scrap, but following from orange, we will need bright dust in order to upgrade exotic items to veteran rarity. Though, in the process, we've got some pretty nice patchwork pistols. And finally, you can apply illusions. Now this is another cosmetic option that will change the way your weapon looks, and to be honest is not really something I've messed around with much, but there are some explanations for it over on the Vermintide 2 wiki. Either way though, it's definitely an option and something to look at. Moving on swiftly. Finally, you can convert dust, converting dust to a lower rarity. Meaning if we were to put in our blue celestial dust, we'd be able to get some jade dust from it. Now crafting in this game is certainly a large part of it. It's a very neat system, and if you do want to get into it, there are plenty of guides online that go into some really good depth on how to get the best equipment out of it. And I'll be sure to put a link in the description to one such guide. Well, if that was the base game, let's have a look at the introduction of the Chaos Wastes. And once more, you'll find yourself in a brand new lobby room, complete with all the amenities we had upstairs, though one's now specific to the Chaos Wastes. Starting up an expedition, we have options for quick play, custom game, Twitch once more, and the lobby browser. And we're just going to have a quick expedition by ourselves, going out on recruit, though of course you will be able to bump this up to Cataclysm should you ever find yourself and your friends in a crazy enough mood to do so, and having forked out for the Winds of Magic DLC. Starting up a custom game, we're going to go into a private match once more, and we can see here we have the 4 gods of chaos, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Khorne, and Slaanesh, taking various expeditions into the hearts of their worlds. To begin with, we have the Gaze of Nurgle, a 3-day expedition. Nurgle has cursed your destination. Curses from other gods may be encountered en route. Yes, the gods themselves will have an effect in this, cursing you as well as other gods, giving you their blessing, making the game a little easier as you move on. So let's have a look at the Expedition of Fortitude. Well, minus the dodgy graphics, we can see here a selection of different points that we will have to move through in order to get to the Arena of Fortitude. I think this is the warning about the epileptic seizures. Now normally you would vote for the destinations you go to, then embark on the mission as a team. Seeing as we're going solo though, we're just going to be clicking away and deciding where we go. You do get a nice indication of not only the bonuses you'll get from this mission, such as the Pilgrim's Coins as we go, but also an indication of what enemies you'll be up against in battle. And since we're just starting out, the first thing to do, as always, pick ourselves a barrel. Now throughout your expedition, you will be able to engage in different altars, providing you different bonuses for different amounts of Pilgrim's Coins. Currently we have 0, so this is completely useless. So straight away, we've now brought ourselves up to 48. You can pick these coins up as you run around, as well as by completing the missions themselves, so it won't take you long to start building them up. Gain access to some of those blessings later on. And of course, the brand new enemies, the Beastmen, have joined us, alongside some quite nice new potions as well, our life stealers. Now as we go around, we've acquired ourselves a boon. You'll also gain trials. Now these trials can be completed to give yourself additional boons for free, though of course you will have to overcome said trials in order to gain them. Now do watch out and don't fall over, or else you'll have to be pulled up by your team. That goes for you too, AI. Of course, you can also chuck the enemy off as well. Now as you go through fighting different enemies and gaining different boons, you'll also come across various shrines and mini-bosses, all there to both help and hinder as you progress on to the arena at the end. And for that, I wish you luck. So there you are, Vermintide 2, following the 2021 updates. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you were new to the franchise, then you have a better idea of what Vermintide 2 is, and if you're a returning player, then you got a good chance to see just what the Chaos Wastes are. Now if you are interested in seeing more of the game at play, then me and Keep It Frosty have completed the base game campaign right here on YouTube, so do have a check at those streams if you want to see a little more. Though of course, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so in the comments, and I'll be happy to get back to you. But till then, as always, peace out.